Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Welcome to a new venue. It's a cold and miserable day outside, so I thought I'd bring you into my kitchen just for a change. And also because I wanted to create this video quite swiftly, because the person asking the question has something of a timeline involved. So I'll read the question. It's from somebody called Paul, and they wrote to me and asked, I have an appointment with a Rolex Authorised dealer this Saturday for the first time, and I want to show them that I am serious about my interest in Rolex, so I will wear a Rolex watch that I already own. The question is, I purchased it on the grey market, and if asked by the AD about my watch, would it put them off and scupper my chances to get on their list? Cheers, Paul. Well, Paul makes an excellent question there, and I think it's a very relevant one. But we have to think about, the whole Rolex purchasing experience from the get-go. And first of all, congratulations, Paul, on deciding to add a new Rolex to your collection. I still believe they are some of the best watches that are available for their price point. I'm wearing a Rolex myself today, a GMT Master 2. And I think it will be a good time to look at a Rolex for many reasons. We know there's lots of uncertainty going on in the world at the moment. So you've got the war in Ukraine and the global sort of ostracization of Russia. It means that I don't think they'll ever be seeing any deliveries of Rolex anytime soon. Apparently there's something of a COVID outbreak in China, so it's possible that things are not so great in the retail sector in China. You've got possibly a demand reduction for Rolex watches in the Western world, certainly in the UK. This country has been plunged into some sort of an economic turmoil because of the cost of living crisis, as it's being called. So, things like gas and electricity prices are rising exponentially. So as a result, people are concerned about their outgoings, and people who may have had money to spend on frivolous commodities like Rolex watches, they may well be more inclined to keep that money close to their chest. Interest rates are going up, so people who have mortgages and other financial commitments are going to find their income being pinched from several different directions. And at times like that, commodity purchases tend to fall down on the back burner. There's also the suggestion that Rolex output has been increasing. We know that their new manufacturing facility on the outskirts of Geneva has either gone online or is about to go online. So there's a likelihood that there'll be an increase in the output of desirable watches. So hopefully, for many people who are in the market, lots of these things may signal to us more watches are available. And in conversations I've been having with other watch aficionados, they're telling me they're getting the call more often these days. It's the watches are flowing through at a slightly better pace. So hopefully, these all things may converge and make your watch purchasing journey, Paul, a little bit easier. So, whilst we say that, I think demand for Rolex watches are always going to greatly outstrip the actual supply. So we're always going to be in a position where you can't walk into a shop and buy a desirable Rolex watch, if any Rolex watch, if anything like recent history has shown us. So it's really important that we enter into this relationship with our authorized dealer with realistic expectations, and we know that we're entering into a long-term situation. And to achieve that goal, there are a number of things that we can of course do which will improve our chances. Now, the first thing that we need to do when we're looking to buy a watch is, as you've already done, make an appointment, go and see the authorized dealer, have a proper sit-down conversation with them. We're not just walking into the shop and having an over-the-counter discussion. We are at the very beginning showing them that we are interested in buying this watch. We've gone out of our way to book an appointment. We want to have a conversation. And this is important because remember, buying a Rolex watch is a situation like you will not encounter when you buy any other commodity, generally speaking, because you're going into the store and you are asking that person, the retailer, to sell you a watch which you could, if it's a desirable model, and you haven't indicated which watch you're looking to buy, but I'm going to guess it's a desirable model. You have not, you go into the store, and if they sell you a watch, you could immediately go out and sell that watch for a profit. So it's a business transaction, a serious business transaction. And like any business transaction, it is based on human interaction. So when you go into that store, be under no misunderstanding. That conversation you have with the authorised dealer or their sales agent is very much part of that human interactive business transaction. They're going to be vetting you. They're going to be vetting you from the moment that you walk into that store. And there's a reason why they do that. They want to make sure that the right people get the watches that they're selling. They don't want to be selling those watches to people who are going to go out and flip them, as the term is, to make a swift profit. And there's good reason for that. They've got customers who they've known for some time, who they've built a relationship with. They want to make sure they are the ones who get the watches that everybody wants, because they're looking after their future business transactions with those individuals. The other reason is they're protecting their own reputation as a retailer, because if they sell you that watch and then you subsequently go out and resell it for a profit, make no mistake, Rolex are keeping an eye on who is reselling watches. The watches can be identified by their serial numbers. They even look at the adverts where they're placed on things like Chrono24, eBay, and if they can identify the serial numbers, often visible around the rehaut of many of the Rolex pieces, they will then backtrack that to the authorised dealer who sold the watch. If they identify an authorised dealer who is repeatedly selling desirable watches, which are then finding their way onto the grey market, the reseller market, that is going to impact that authorised dealer. They may get a rebuke from Rolex, they may get a reduction in the number of desirable watches which are sent that way, and in extreme situations with repeat offenders, they may find their authorised dealer status rescinded. They would lose Rolex from their store if they're an independent store, and that could be tantamount to losing their business, because Rolex is undoubtedly the most desired, commonly sought after watch in the world. And if you have a Rolex dealership and you lose it, it's the end of the business. So they are protecting their reputation and their future good health as a business, as a retailer. So understand why they're putting us through this process. They're not trying to be awkward. They're not trying to be odd or difficult about it. It's a matter of making sure the right people get the right watches, and also they're protecting their reputation and future status. So it's quite important that you communicate to the person that you're talking to on this occasion your genuine interest and love for that watch. And there's a number of things you can do to demonstrate that to the person you're talking to. So you can have a really good understanding and knowledge about the watch that you're seeking in the first instance. If you want to buy a Submariner, as is often the case with many people who love Rolex, go in there and know about the Submariner's journey. Know that the watch was only updated in 2021. Know about its dimensions. Talk about it, in a loving manner, so that you're articulating to the sales agent. You are not just somebody who's walked in and just said, I want to buy a Rolex. You know exactly what you want, and you've formed an understanding and a decision on why you want that watch. And I can give you a really good example of that. So some months ago, a friend of mine in the village where I live, he's really interested in beginning a Rolex journey. He wants to buy a Rolex. He's a watch lover. He owns a number of high quality watches, but not a Rolex at this point. So we went to an authorised dealer together that I've bought a number of watches with, hoping that it would buy him a bit of credence in that store, because the people know that I'm not a watch flipper. I'm a genuine watch aficionado. And my friend was able to sit down and talk about his watch collection. So he owns things like Omegas, Zeniths, a number of other nice pieces. It shows a genuine interest in horology and luxury watch ownership. And then when he talked about the Rolex he was interested in, which was an Air King, by the way, he said, well, you know, the Air King is something associated with aviation, with engineering excellence. The particular model has certain aesthetic qualities which I am drawn to. And he was able to explain why that was the case, the number 5 being very pertinent to him, and the fact that the number 5 appears many times on the dial of that watch. He was demonstrating to the sales agent, you know, I've not just come in and said, I want to buy an Air King because I like it. He's given a whole host of reasons why that watch will be special and precious to him. And that is a really good way of communicating to the individual that, you know, the sales agent, that this is why I want this watch. It may be to mark a special occasion, you know, that you've graduated from university, your child is graduating, that you've reached a milestone in your life. Although some people would suggest the sales agents, you know, they're not really interested in that, but it builds that human interaction with that individual. It shows to them this isn't just not a flippant purchase, you know, I've got a pile of money, so I want to buy a Rolex. This is something more than that. This is a considered purchase, and this will be a precious possession that will be with me for many years. Now, as I said, this is a human transaction, all right? We're talking to another human being. One thing you can do is dress the part. Now, people hate it when I say this, that I suggest to people that they dress up to go into the authorized dealer. People often leaving the comments when I say this, comments like, you know, it's my money, I just want to go in and buy something. I shouldn't have to impress a sales agent just because I want to buy a watch. Well, if you adopt that attitude, you'll be one of the people walking around with a gap on your wrist where a Rolex watch should be, if you really want it. Because remember, this is a business transaction. And the reason why I suggest to people that they look the part is pretty much obvious. I mean, for a start, remember that the authorized dealer is most likely going to be wearing a suit or a collar and tie, or the female version if you're talking to a female. And the reason they have dressed up like that, because they want to appear professional and courteous to the people who come into the store. All right, if they were standing there in a black pair of, you know, working dungarees or overalls, it would be incongruous to their role as a luxury goods sales agent. So they wear a suit and a tie, most likely if they're a man. And they're doing that to respect you as a potential customer, because they're showing you, look, I'm professional. I know you want to come in and buy something very expensive, and I've dressed accordingly. Now, whilst it shouldn't make any difference, and that's true if you go in there just wearing street clothes, the reality is human beings react to the way that other human beings present themselves in physical appearance. So if you're wearing a suit, similar to what the sales agent is, there will be an association. They will take that as a sign of respect, as a sign of professionalism, because that's why they are wearing a suit. This is basic psychology. The reason why human beings gravitate to uniforms and people who are liveried items, because there's the association, right? This is why the military wear uniforms which differentiate each other in different regiments, because they have that association to that regiment or that body. You can apply that ideology exactly the same to your dressing when you go into the authorized dealer. Now, I'm not saying dress out of character, right? If you don't habitually wear a suit, don't go out and buy a suit, but, you know, look smart within your sphere of normal dress. So if you tend to wear jeans, well, wear a nice pair of dark jeans, clean jeans with a nice pair of shoes, maybe a sports jacket, so that you look like somebody who's serious. Because remember, we're going into this store and we're going to enter into a conversation, a business transaction, which will cost many thousands of pounds. So at the very least, we can dress like that means something to us. You know, that we are respectful to the people that we're seeking to buy the watch from, because they're doing that to us by dressing up for us. That way, we will begin this relationship on the best possible footing, even before we open our mouths. Our appearance speaks volumes to people, even before we say a word. So it would be foolish, I suggest, not to take advantage of the gain that can give us in this future conversation. So dress the part, Don't overdress. Don't dress in an eccentric manner, wearing a cravat and a bouffant pocket square if that's not the way you normally dress. Just turn up your normal volume of smartness so that you show the person you've made the effort. Now finally, let's get to that grey watch question, which is really underpinning what you've asked me today. You own a Rolex watch which you've purchased on the grey market, and you're concerned that this may have a negative impact upon the sales agent if you disclose that in conversation. And I got to tell you, I absolutely agree that is the case. So we have to be careful, because we want to take advantage of the fact that that Rolex watch you're wearing demonstrates to the sales agent that you have a genuine love and affection for the Rolex brand. That is going to say a lot to them. It's going to articulate totally that you are in love with the brand and I want to own more than one piece. However, if you tell them that you've bought it on the grey market, that immediately tells them that you're familiar with the grey market and you have stepped into that world. That may raise a question in their minds. Well, he might do that again. If I sell him this Submariner, is he going to go straight out and sell it for a profit? Because he knows how the grey market works. What I suggest you do is this. Yes, I would wear the watch. It's an important talking point, if nothing else. If we go into that store and we begin that journey, which will eventually, hopefully, some months, maybe years down the road, result in this Rolex that you seek. By showing them you own a Rolex, it's already telling them that A, you know how much these watches cost and you're prepared to spend that money to own one, and B, you know the brand and you love the brand. So it's two important ticks in the boxes which demonstrate to them, this is a watch for you. So I would suggest you show them that you've got a Rolex, and in the conversation say, look, I own a number of watches, one of which is a Rolex already, so I love Rolex, I love the brand, I've owned this one for a while, and leave it at that. Now, they may say to you, particularly, I should say, if it's a recent model Rolex, so if it's a brand new model, something which hasn't only been in the catalogue for a couple of years, maybe an obviously very attractive piece. Let's say if it's a Daytona, if it's a GMT Master 2, if it's a Submariner, particularly like a green Submariner, these are going to attract questions, because the AD is going to say to you, wow, you've got a Daytona. Where did you get that from? Their question is, did you get it from us, basically? That's what they're trying to get to the point. Or where did you get it from, if not from us? It's going to be difficult for you to skirt that question, but the obvious thing would be to say, well, I've had it for a while, I bought it pre-owned. Don't volunteer any more information than that. Certainly don't be using terms like grey market, which is the vernacular used by people who obviously understand buying and selling in the used world within Rolex, because that is telling that agent something about you. It's, as I said, it's telling them you understand and you've participated in the buying and selling of used Rolexes for profit and loss. I would say avoid that terminology, avoid even entering that world. Simply say, I've had it for a couple of years and I was able to get it pre-owned. Leave it at that. Hopefully that will close down that whole element of the conversation. If they press further, you just have to be honest. I would never suggest anybody adopts dishonesty in entering into any relationship, but be frugal with the way that you disclose information. Do not be telling them something which could be detrimental to you in the long term. I think in balance, the fact that you own one of those, a Rolex watch already, outweighs the negativity. So the positivity in the conversation building outweighs the negativity that you've bought it in the grey market. Just be very careful about the way that you talk about how you bought that watch and how it came into your ownership. If it is a very desirable watch, like a stainless steel Daytona or a Pepsi GMT Master 2, be prepared to be probed about that watch, and you may, in hindsight, in the balance of things, decide, actually, it might be better not to wear that watch. Just don't wear it, but make reference to it in conversation. Not as impactful as having it on your wrist, but it might be the better option, because if you just tell them, oh, I own a Rolex already, I've got a GMT Master, from a number of years ago, bought it on the grey market, bought it pre-owned. See, easy mistake to make. Not having it on your wrist is less likely to attract questions about it. So think about, because you didn't tell me what watch you have or what you're after, I can't really be more precise than that. Obviously, if you're asking for a watch which is hugely desirable, like a Daytona or GMT, be prepared to be batted off, and then you'll have to enter into the conversation of, how can I make myself or get myself onto the customer list for this watch? See how that conversation goes. But I hope I've answered your question today about what I would do, certainly if I was in that situation. And by way of just an end to the conversation here about watches today, I made a video a few weeks ago about the new Tudor Pelagos, the 39mm piece. I went to the store, I tried it on, and it was a lovely watch, and I expressed an interest in that watch when I was in there that day, which was 2 days after the watch had been globally released. So it was brand new, first watch in the store. And I've received many, many comments on that video. People asked me, in fact, they loved the watch. I don't think it's going to be readily available. Well, I can update you on that, because 7 days after I went into that store and expressed an interest in that Pelagos 39, I got a call from the authorised dealer asking me if I still wanted it, because there was one available in the store. I declined on that occasion because I gave it quite a bit of thought, and I find that watch to be so aesthetically similar to the Rolex Submariner, which I actually own. I thought to myself, if I bought that watch and I brought it into my collection, it would leave one or the other of those two watches totally redundant, and I would likely have to get rid of one. And as I already own a Submariner, I didn't see the point of bringing that Pelagos 39 into the collection. So I declined. So somebody else would have had that watch. I don't know if that is an indication of their availability, whether they're going to be, quite easy to get hold of. But all I can say is, I'm an ordinary bloke. I walked into the store. I'd never bought a watch from that store before. It was a new store. And they rang me within a week offering me a piece. So I hope if you're on the list for a Pelagos 39, that gives you some hope that they're out there and they're making their way through. And whoever got the one which I declined, I hope you love it, because they are a beautiful watch, but just a little bit too close to the Submariner for my collection. So there we go. Paul, I hope you found that useful, and it was nice to talk to you today about Rolex watches. Again, I'm not going to feature perhaps so much content on watches in the future. There's a lot more to talk about, but I hope you enjoyed it today. So from my kitchen, all the very best. Take care of yourselves. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, thumbs up. If you want to see more like this, red button. If you'd like to practically support the channel, you can buy me a coffee, and the notes on how to do that are in the show notes below. So until the next time, wear your watch, you know the saying, with pride and passion, and I will see you again very soon.